I was in the middle of pouring coffee when the message came through. No subject. Just a photo. My son, Jacob, 10 years old, is sitting alone on the cracked stone steps of a church. His backpack beside him, legs folded in, chin to his chest. A shadow of the steeple cut across his face. No context. No sender name. But I knew. I knew. I always knew when she wanted to hurt me. I didn't run. Didn't call. I just stared. The spoon in my hand ticked against the ceramic, slow and steady, like the hand of a clock marking the exact moment something in me stopped. 3 minutes later, her name lit up my screen. You could have saved us all a lot of pain. $30,000 wasn't much for a father. Enjoy your lesson. She used the word lesson, as if abandonment was pedagogy, as if Jacob was a chalkboard she could scrawl her spite on. She had called 3 months ago, voice like sugar soaked in vinegar. Said her new husband Chad was starting a business. Something about crypto or consulting or whatever scam was fashionable this quarter. I told him you'd help, she said casually, like I owed her support for the man she cheated on me with. She said it with Jacob in the background, humming, playing completely unaware he was about to become collateral. I refused. Calmly, not out of anger, not out of pride, because I saw what she was really asking. She didn't want money. She wanted power. The next week, visitation got strained. Jacob seemed confused, distant. He said they were too busy to drop him off. Sometimes he'd call me from her phone late at night, whispering like he wasn't supposed to. Then nothing. For 2 weeks, silence. And then the church steps. That photo, that lesson, I didn't confront her. Not yet. She expected rage. Accusations. A scene. I gave her silence. Instead, I focused on Jacob. Picked him up from the church without a word. Took him home. Fed him. Watched the way he flinched at doorbells. Held him when he pretended not to cry in his sleep. He didn't ask about his mother. And I didn't mention her. But I documented everything. Every missed call, every message, every late pickup. Security footage from the church. Medical reports noting stress indicators in Jacob's behavior. I filed for emergency custody and psychological evaluation. While she posted filtered smiles with Chad, I was quietly building a case sharp enough to bleed. And then I found the receipts. Not just financial ones, though those helped. Digital ones. Messages between her and Chad. Conversations where they laughed about making him me beg. They called Jacob a pawn. Used the word like it was a strategy session. That was the last night I felt warmth in my chest. 3 months after the church. Family court. Polished floors. Sterile air. She walked in, dressed like motherhood, all pastels and pearls. Chad stood beside her like a mannequin who'd learned to smirk. They didn't know what I had. My lawyer handed the judge the file neatly tabbed, time-stamped. The judge barely blinked, just flipped pages like he was scanning instructions for a machine someone else had already broken. Then he spoke. Full custody awarded to the biological father. No visitation without court-supervised therapy. Allegations of emotional neglect substantiated. Her smile cracked. Chad tried to speak, but the judge raised a hand. I didn't look at them. Not until I passed by Jacob's hand in mine and paused just long enough to drop a copy of the printed messages at her feet. Not a word. Just that. She bent to pick them up. But Chad didn't. He turned away like he already knew what was in them. She followed me into the hallway after court. Voice trembling, mascara already streaked. I didn't mean to hurt him, she said. It was you. You made it impossible. I turned slowly. I looked at her like a stranger. You used a child, I said. Calm. Bear. That's not something you get to walk back from. I was desperate. You were strategic. I leaned in, not angry. Just final. You thought hurting Jacob would break me. But all you did was show a judge who you really are. She gasped like she might faint. I walked away before I saw if she did. Jacob sleeps peacefully now. No more checking the door. No more whispering. I don't speak of her in this house. He doesn't ask. Maybe someday he will, and I'll tell him the truth. Not to poison him, but to inoculate him. I've learned something too. Some people aren't broken. They're built wrong. And if you hand them a soul, they'll sell it back to you in pieces. She tried to teach me a lesson, but it was the judge who finally graded her work.